This morning in Your Money, brought to you by Massey and Associates. Many Americans are worried about the speculation of a looming recession, especially those who are getting closer to retirement. Here to shed some light on this topic is certified financial planner Jeff Massey. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Happy to have you with us. When we think about retirement, I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider, but this is a big concern for those maybe nearing what they thought was the end of one chapter. Tell us about this big concern and why it looms heavily over them.
Well, people are concerned about a potential looming recession, and is that going to rob them of their retirement?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to. And the closer you are to retirement, the more important a recession becomes. Because if all of a sudden you lose your job, like a couple of years or a few years before retirement, that's like the last part of the sprint, so to speak, of the long marathon of working for all those years. So it's very difficult for a lot of people, frustrating. The big concern is your income in retirement, and you don't have to leave that hanging in the wind there. You can do certain things to structure income so that when you get to retirement, you can rely on that income for the rest of your life. So there are insurance contracts that you can buy that will guarantee income for the rest of your life, backed up by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the company. So it's important to kind of focus on that income.
It is good to know that there are some options there. So where do we start? What would you say is like the first step in place if we're, if this is under consideration for us?
There are 4 key areas that you want to start looking at. First, of course, is expenses. How are you doing? Are you, spending money willy-nilly, or are you budgeting? And so take account of where you are with your expenses. That's step 1.
Yes.
If you need to limit some expenses, then you know what you're spending money on and what is more discretionary, what you might be able to cut out so that you can do better in the future. And of course, you want to take an inventory of your assets. What do you have? What's in place? How much are you saving? The best thing during a slowdown in the economy and the market like we have today is to continue investing. Because you're buying, as the market comes down, you're buying more shares for the same dollars that you're putting in. So when the market recovers, you kind of leapfrog because you have more shares in your account. So you have more in there to grow with.
We got to take those risks appropriately, I'm sure. So you got your expenses in mind, and then you're looking at your assets. What are the other 2 key areas there?
Risk. As you just mentioned, risk is so important. Too many people that we meet with when we do complimentary meetings where we analyze their portfolio, their level of risk is way up here, but when we do an assessment of what they're comfortable with, their risk tolerance is down here. So there's a big disconnect between where they are and where they should be. So we can rectify that by moving assets around. And
you've been on here in the past, and you talk about when you're retiring, like maybe not taking as many risks because you have that set dollar amount coming in. You might not have that wiggle room to play around with a bit more.
Right. The important thing is, again, back to the income. Once you solidify your income planning, then the rest goes to investments to grow for the future, to account for inflation and all of that. And it's so important to keep that in mind. So it's risk and the income. And we offer an income gap assessment tool on our website, MasseyOnMoney.com, or through the Roadshow website. You can get to the Massey site. And we have an income gap assessment tool that would help people get a better handle on where they are today.
Is income part of that 3rd step with the risks? Like, are they tied together? So what would the 4th aspect be?
Well, it was expenses, assets, your risk tolerance, and then your income gap assessment. It's just an overall kind of assessment tool. Where are we right now? Well, these are our expenses. These are the income that we know we have coming in, whether it's Social Security, if you're married, for his, for hers, is there a pension? And then there's a gap usually. And then what do you have in the way of assets that you can draw from to fill that gap? And that's the income gap assessment tool, which is like the final step.
I can imagine it would be nice too if one half of a relationship, if you will, like a husband or wife, is retiring first, that they both go together, because then they might know, hey, in a couple of years when it's my turn, at least I'll have a better understanding.
Absolutely.
Of where to go from
we
here.
Basically require a husband and wife to come to meetings. And we don't charge for the meeting. Our rule is, look, if you can't make it, even if it's last minute, just reschedule. It is way too important. You think about it, you've saved your whole life. You might have $1 million plus in your retirement plan. You have never made $1 million decision before.
That's
but
true.
you are now.
And-
so you need both in these meetings. It's very critical.
Yeah, like you said, you've worked your whole life to get to this point, and
Exactly.
you want to enjoy it and do it
Yeah.
right. So listen to Jeff, all right? He's got you covered. Thanks so much for coming by again.
Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you. All right, this information was brought to you by Massey and Associates. If you want a link to their website, go to ours, roadshow.com.